so welcome back, Kim, to the Zoom room for another Art of Letting Go live session. So let's dive into our teaching for today. There's an email. And our daily lesson. Yeah, so I'm just going to share my screen with you. You can read this. Read the headline quote to kick it off from Carlos Castaneda.
Self-importance is our greatest
I don't know if
enemy.
you've heard of me, but he wrote a number of traditions.
Oh, no, I don't know. I haven't heard his name before. Self-importance is our greatest enemy. Think about it. What weakens us is feeling offended by the deeds and misdeeds of our fellow men. Our self-importance requires that we spend most of our lives offended by someone. There we go. It's kind of the thing we're talking about, actually, in the sense.
Yeah, so the essence of a narcissist is complete self-importance. It's just me. Everything's about me. It's my own self-importance. It's my own interests. It's my own welfare. I don't really care about anyone else. And you look at the woman. I just thought that sort of demonstrated quite well. She's taking a selfie, admiring her, and you can kind of see the ego. It's like, oh, I'm looking at myself in this sort of narcissistic way. Which the downside of narcissism is that you're going to feel offended all the time, because the world doesn't respect that your way is always going to be correct, and so you're going to get continuously offended by someone or something when your expectations aren't met. And so you see that play out in your life and other people's lives. And this self-importance is the ego. It's Carlos Castaneda just hits the nail on the head. What causes us to be offended and to give offense to our brothers? It's the sense of self-importance. It's just another name for your ego, a separate self-concept. It's behind all the forms of offense you've ever experienced in your life. It's only the ego that can be offended. The spirit doesn't get offended by anything, because the spirit knows that only the truth is true and that everything else is illusion. So how can you really get offended by an illusion? It's a non-existent occurrence or circumstance or situation. How can that offend you if it's not true? So it may seem like other people and circumstances are offending you. Remember, this is the great deception of the ego, which always tries to convince you that you've been unfairly treated and are the victim of people and events outside of you, to justify the guilt, fear, anger, and hatred it wants you to experience. So it's a setup. It's trying to get you to convince you that you're unfairly treated, that you're a victim of these, external events, that people are mistreating you. And all that does is justifies guilt, fear, anger, and hatred. So the guilt might be worth just looking at this briefly, our diagram. The ego's modus operandi is quite simple once you understand what it really is. So let's go into the sent into hell. So if you understand that at the foundation of the ego is guilt, the guilt for the original sin of apparently destroying God, love, oneness, or pure formless awareness. And now its entire identity rests on that foundation of guilt. You start to understand why it has to create a world like it does, because it can't handle that. So it has to project the guilt out, and create a world that now allows it to do that. Okay, so the guilt is not now mine, the guilt is someone else's. And I've invented a world where there are apparently all these other characters onto whom I can now project my guilt. So they are the ones then who will be punished by this God that I've invented, the fearful, wrathful, separate God of the ego. That's the ego's version of God. They will be punished instead of me because they are the ones to blame, not me. And that's why the ego is obsessed with blaming. Attacking, blaming is all about projection of guilt onto another, so that the ego tells you when you do that, the guilt is not going to be yours anymore. The guilt will be theirs, and they will be the ones who are then punished and ultimately killed by God because they're guilty and you're off the hook. So we continuously project our guilt in the form of accusation and blame and attack in all its forms in order to offload our guilt, which we can't really handle, onto someone else. And so we have to then set up a world that allows us to do that. And that's why the world is so full of injustice and mistreatment and unfair treatment in all of its forms, because it's a setup to allow you to project your guilt onto someone else. You see how it works?
Yeah.
And as long as you keep playing that game of being the victim, then the ego is very much intact, because its thought system of guilt and sin and fear and attack is all embedded into the victim identity. So yes, you're saying, well, just understand what's really going on here, and then you can start letting it go. If you understand that this is all illusory, because you never really separated from your source, so there isn't really no guilt and no sin, and there is no fearful, wrathful, vengeful God that's completely made up, because there's nothing to be punished for, and you need not fear anything because you never did anything wrong. This is the answer. This is the way out of the dream of separation. This is the reinterpretation of the Holy Spirit, or the awareness of oneness dream. So in other words, anything or anyone in the apparently external world that offends you is really just a projection of your belief in your own self-importance, right? So now the ego has created a self-concept which entrenches separation in your mind. If you are this separate self and you are very important in your own self, then you are really saying, I am separate from everyone else. I'm separate from my source. I'm no longer one with pure formless awareness of perfect love. I have my own identity. And the more I feel offended, the more that identity gets strengthened, and the more the ego is in charge of my mind. So what the ego is always trying to do is set us up for an upset, so that we can feel like we're the victim, so we can project our guilt outwards onto someone or something else, which strengthens our sense of being a separate self. And then we fall into its dark domain of negative thoughts and emotions. So that separate self, if you believe in that, then you must also experience fear, guilt, fear, attack thoughts, sadness, depression, rage, anger, jealousy, and the entire Pandora's box of egoic emotions comes from this self-concept. This is what Yeshua is trying to say to us. However, perceived through the eyes of the Holy Spirit, which is just your remembrance of perfect love or oneness, this domain here. So the Holy Spirit remembers this pure formless awareness of perfect love, even while all this stuff is happening. It reminds you that none of it's really true. Once you do that and you go into that, then it can reinterpret the whole situation for you from a different perspective. And that's what Yeshua's training us to do. So perceive through the eyes of the Holy Spirit, which is your remembrance of perfect love or oneness, any apparent offense you experience is just an opportunity to let go of your sense of self-importance. That is the real cause of the feeling of you feeling constantly offended by others in the world. Okay? So your sense of self-importance, your self-concept is the real cause. The other people and situations in the world are triggers that activate that separate self, and the thoughts and emotions that are, resident in it then arise often quite strongly. And then you go, oh, well, it's actually the external thing that's caused it. No, it's your own inbuilt negative reactions that cause it. Does that make sense?
Mm.
So the ego's mechanism of projection of your anger and fear outside your mind to convince you that you really are a separate, important individual living in a hostile world becomes the miraculous opportunity for your release from the prison of your own self-importance, if you can perceive it this way. So whenever you get tested, whenever something apparently bad happens, and it seems like you're being victimized and attacked, you got to remember that actually this is just an opportunity to let it go and to let go of another part of the ego so that I can awaken to myself, awaken to who I really am. And that's what this presents me. Okay? So this is the miracle available to you in any situation that pushes your buttons. If your button's being pushed, it means you've got triggered by the situation or event. The ego's emotions are rising quite strongly, but they're already there. They've just been aroused up. They've been like stoking the fire. It's already burning, but it just comes into more manifestation. So when that happens, then the mind training helps you, instead of reacting to that and going, oh, I'm going to go down that rabbit hole and believe it and make it stronger, that allows you to go the opposite direction. So no, actually, I'm going to let that go. I'm not going to react to that. I'm going to find a sense of peace and calm in myself, and stay in the spirit rather than indulging in all these ego thoughts and emotions. So that's why you do the mind training. So when your buttons get pushed, the ego's triggered you, all of your stuff's arisen, there's another awareness that comes in and says, no, but remember that this is all just illusion. It's false. It's a setup to get you upset. So don't fall for the trap. Just let it go and avoid getting upset. And so this is the only way you're going to get out of the dream. If you can perceive everything as just a projection of the ego mind, that perception then gives you a way out. Because then by letting it go, you undo the projections, and you also must undo the perceptions. Because projection and perception go hand in hand. So on the one level, we project. I'll show this to you in another diagram, perhaps. Let's go back to here. So what we do is, if we desire to be a separate self, we project out, we create the events and circumstances of our life. That then comes back as circumstances. And now it seems, from the ego's perspective, as if it's all being caused from outside of us. But that's not true. You've actually projected it out from your subconscious mind that you're not aware of. Then it shows up in your dream. And then the projection triggers the perception. Now you have a perception of that event, but it's based on the same belief that caused it to in the first place, that projected it out. So the desire to be a separate self means that you must separate from your source, means that you must feel that you're unworthy and you're a victim. No, I'm not love. I'm unworthy of love, and I'm actually a victim of the world. That's what that desire to be a separate self engenders. And then you must have beliefs and thoughts and emotions and perceptions that marry that. So you see the loop of the ego. It projects out on the one level, and it triggers us through the projections, and then there's the perceptions, which strengthen the emotions, thoughts, and beliefs that come from that fundamental self-concept. And that's the way it reinforces itself, gets stronger by doing this. So this is the loop. It's a closed loop projection perception mechanism that is the primary mechanism of the illusion, and how the ego has kept us here for a long, long time. Because it's a very cunning plan to make us believe that actually reality is outside of ourselves, and all of our problems are outside. And Yeshua's saying to us, no, that's not the case, because actually everything that comes to you from outside is made up by your own mind. The entire universe, the entire cosmos is sitting in your own mind. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And so it's getting around that. Really, the key thing with the course's training is to recognize that that's what's going on always, and don't fall for it. So when you react negatively and you've got the ego's negative emotions and thoughts really dominating you, then you forget that. You forget that you're projecting it and perceiving it, and you're doing that so well that you've forgotten you're doing it, and that creates your now imaginary illusory reality in that moment. As soon as you start to let those thoughts and emotions go, then it can change. So that, yes, you're saying the only way out of this dark dream, if you understand how this works, saying very difficult to control the projections directly because it's subconscious. So what you can do is you can control your perceptions, which is the second half of the equation. You can change your mind. You can change your perceptions. And as you change your perception, you must change the emotion and the thought and the belief. And ultimately, at the fundamental level, you're changing your desire about who you want to be, saying, I want to be one self rather than a separate self. All right, so that's a little bit of, that's the metaphysics. That's what's going on here. It's actually very simple, but we have to recall it. We have to remember the truth, don't we? In the face of the ego's illusions.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever's happening on the perceptual level, remember it's a set up, right? I'm never upset for the reason I think. I've been set up to be upset. Really, I'm upset because I see what isn't really there. All of this is illusion. I'm perceiving a false world, and it's what I'm perceiving within the world is just a product of my subconscious mind that is twisted and distorted. So we can bear these models in mind and then actually apply them in practice by letting go of whatever negative perceptions arise. And we do that moment by moment, systematically and progressively. Then we are living the course. Yeah. So any questions on that? That brings us to today's session. We're going to chat about this. Rejection perception and the idea of self-importance being our greatest enemy. So, just don't be fooled by it. When all of the social media stuff and people taking selfies and all of this, I've just been watching with Gabriel, Gladiator. And they ham it up, it's acting, but there's this guy called Legend, and he's, full of his own self-importance. That's his persona. So he's like always talking about himself and like how great I am, and that's classic egoic self-importance, narcissistic behavior, and of course not very considerate towards anyone else because it's just about me. That's we got to counter that tendency in ourselves towards narcissistic behavior, because it just feeds the ego's self-concept, and that just perpetuates guilt and sin and fear and attack. And so, the more you do that, the more you go down that rabbit hole, the more of the negative that you're going to experience.
Mm.
because that's what you're putting out. You get back what you put out. It's karma. If you believe in this nightmare of a thought system, then what can you expect but guilt, sin, fear, attack, sickness, suffering, pain, death? Because that's what the ego does. That's what it is. That's what it does. It exists in and by those thoughts and emotions and those states of mind. So don't expect anything different from it. This is what Yeshua is again trying to teach us. Don't expect anything ever positive to come from the ego, because it is false. Right. So that helps us out nicely for our lesson today, which is lesson 49 we're on to, is it? Yeah, lesson 49. So just read it in the, got some documents now. Read it in here. Let me just start another voice recording. Give me a moment. Yeah, so if you can read, let's just stop that. His voice speaks to me all through the day, and then read the alternative.
God's voice speaks to me all through the day. God's voice speaks to me all through the day. Perfect love's voice speaks to me throughout the day.
Yeah, and the translation just makes it a bit more applicable, I think. Perfect love's voice. God's voice. What is God's voice? How do I hear God's voice? What does that even? A lot of people would be like, I don't know. What does God's voice sound like? But if it's perfect love's voice, it's a loving awareness, right? So loving awareness speaks to me. My loving awareness speaks to me throughout the day. That might even be a better translation. My loving awareness speaks to me throughout the day. My loving awareness guides me throughout the day. This is what this is saying. My loving awareness guides me throughout the day, moment by moment. And this is really the end goal of the course. If we look at where this leads us, let's go to the final lesson, which is lesson 363. Lesson 363. Now this is where he leads us. He leads us in the hands of the Holy Spirit. Final 5 lessons of the course are really just saying, let it all go and surrender to God. Exactly what this lesson is saying. So if you want to read that.
I am wholly aware now, in every moment. I allow my true self to be in charge, and I follow only its guidance, knowing that it brings me peace.
Well, and then he's saying, I need a word. Read the alternative version of that paragraph.
The remembrance of perfect love will give me the words I need to help me. It will also give me a thought whenever I need one. And if I need only stillness and a tranquil, open mind, these are the gifts I will receive from it. It is in charge by my request, and it will hear and answer me because it speaks for pure formless awareness of perfect love, my source and its innocent extension.
So this is where he leaves us. The final 5 lessons, he repeats it 5 times in the workbook for a reason, because it's this lesson. This is where he wants us, the final outcome of the mind training is to be able to live in this state where we hear guidance, we're able to listen, we're able to then act, speak, This is what it means to be fully enlightened or awakened. Or to listen to only to this one voice. And Yeshua says it is possible, but it takes great willingness, great effort and willingness to attain this. Because you have to then let go of everything else. The ego's got to disappear. All right, so let's go back to number 1. So if you can read paragraph 1 in the original and the alternative, kindly. Just do it sentence by sentence. So one sentence in the original, then one sentence in the alternative.
It's quite possible to listen to God's voice all through the day without interrupting your regular activities in any way. It is quite possible for me to listen to perfect love's voice throughout the day without interrupting my regular activities in any way. Part of your mind in which truth abides is in constant communication with God, whether you are aware of it or not. The part of my mind in which truth resides is constantly aware of perfect love, whether I am aware of it or not. It is the other part of your mind that functions in the world and obeys the world's laws. It is the other part of my mind that functions in the world and obeys the world's laws. It is that part that is constantly distracted, disorganized, and highly uncertain. It is this part that is constantly distracted, disorganized, and highly uncertain.
And then from the top in the alternative.
It is quite possible for me to listen to perfect love's voice throughout the day without interrupting my regular activities in any way. The part of my mind in which truth resides is constantly aware of perfect love, whether I am aware of it or not. It is the other part of my mind that functions in the world and obeys the world's laws. It is this part that's constantly distracted, disorganized, and highly uncertain.
So what's he saying here?
So saying that it's possible that we can listen to God's or perfect love's voice. So it's possible to listen to it without interruptions, and he's differentiating the parts of the mind. The one that's where it's, I'd say, the true mind, where the truth resides. And that's always there, whether we're aware of it or not, aware of it from the other part of the mind, which is the functions of the world. And that's the part that's more, that's the illusion, that's the constant, distracting, disorganized. I don't know, maybe sometimes insane thoughts, nothing, it's not constant, it's uncertain, irregular. Well, okay, it's irregular in terms of which kinds of thoughts there are, but it's clutter, noise, insanity, where it's attack thoughts versus the truth, which is the constant one, which is the right part of the mind, which
Doesn't
you
vary.
can actually access. Yeah.
So the ego is very, scattered, it vacillates, it's capricious. There's no stability in it. So if you're all over the place in your thinking, then that's ego. The spirit is by contrast peaceful, because it's stable. It doesn't just change its mind willy-nilly. It's the truth is true. And so you can never, if you stay in that spirit, you can never lose touch with that. There'll always be someone to some reminder of that truth in the dream world. We're not abandoned, we're not lost in the dream world. This is what this is saying. He's asking us to go into the other part of our mind and see the distraction, the disorganization, the chaos, for what it is. Look at the society we've created, just massive distraction. But all these distractions we've set up for the mind to prevent us from going within, to focus on the external. Whether that's shopping, TV, the internet, sex, drugs, rock and roll, and whatever else the ego's invented. It's all a distraction from the real task, which is going within and looking really honestly at this thought system and going, is this really what I want? Is this really me? And then deciding accordingly. No, it's not. Why would I want to be distracted, disorganized, uncertain, when I can have, the absolute clarity, certainty, and peace that comes from perfect love? It's not a good choice to be distracted, disorganized, and highly uncertain when I could be focused, very organized, and completely certain of the truth. All right, so happy to go to number 2.
What the alternative?
I'll just read it in both, I think.
Part that is listening to the voice for God is calm, always at rest and wholly certain. It is really the only part there is. The other part is a wild illusion, frantic and distraught, but without reality of any kind. Try today not to listen to it. Try to identify with the part of your mind where stillness and peace reign forever. Try to hear God's voice call to you lovingly, reminding you that your Creator has not forgotten His Son. Heart that is listening to the voice for perfect love is calm, always at rest and wholly certain. It is really the only part there is. The other part is a wild illusion, frantic and distraught, only without reality of any kind. Today I choose not to listen to it. I identify with the part of my mind where stillness and peace reign forever. I hear perfect love's voice call to me lovingly, reminding me that my source has not forgotten its extension.
Yeah, so summary of that, what's he saying?
Yeah, I think it's re-emphasizing that we're listening to the voice of perfect love, the voice of God. It's a calm, it's restful, it's peaceful, it's certain. And that is the part there is, i.e. that's the real part. It's not the illusion. Whereas the other one is this, it's qualified as a wild illusion. So it's a sense of it being frantic, distraught, it's a bit crazy, but it's without reality. So choose today not to listen to it. Choose not to listen to the frantic, distracting voice of illusion, but rather the voice of perfect love. And it's calling, we need to identify with where the stillness exists forever, i.e. it's constant and peaceful. And we can hear it calling us lovingly.
So what a lot of the spiritual masters do is they don't say very much to people. So there's a guy called Ramana Maharshi. I posted a quote from him actually the other day in the group. Very, enlightened sage, spent a lot of his life in the state of samadhi, just revelation state, we'd call it in course language, just completely rooted in pure formless awareness, not really even aware of his body. And he would just say to people who came, looking for help and guidance, well, I have nothing to say to you. Just sit with me and experience the peace. of just being still. It's not complicated. Just experience that. And because he was so still himself, he would take people into that state, and they would just have an experience that they never had before, which was transformational. Because once you've had that experience once, you know that it's possible. So your ego, there's a crack in your ego that's appeared, because you've now experienced, the peace of God, as the Apostle Paul called it, that surpasses all understanding. And you know that it's possible because you've experienced it. And once you know that, then the ego can never, get the same kind of hold again on your mind, because you know there's something else that actually contradicts it. So therefore, one of them must be true and the other one is false, because both can't be true. All right. So yeah, very simple, straightforward lesson, but as usual, quite profound. It's about practicing it, really. So the theory is one thing, and he gives us, a short commentary on it, but it's really about actually experiencing this loving voice in practice, actually being able to listen to what it says, listen to the guidance. So let's do that now. So we meditate on it.
Yeah.
You close the session. So
Mhm.
if I do a 20-minute med, is that okay? It'll take us to slightly over. It'll take us to 22.
Oh, yeah, 15 minutes. It's okay.
All right. So
1 second. Okay.
it's all right. So just making yourself comfortable, sitting with your feet shoulder width apart, your back straight, cup your hands on your lap, close your eyes. And start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. So you're breathing in, you're noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises, and the subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. You clench the sphincter muscle and you lock the energy in. And draw the energy up your spine, pull it up into your heart center. The slip of air and all the way up to the crown of your head, just pausing at the top of the inhale. So maximal inhale and breath you do. So listen to these words. I will actually hear Perfect Love's voice reminding me of it and of myself. I'll approach this happiest and purest of thoughts with confidence, knowing that in doing so, I am uniting my awareness with pure formless awareness of perfect love. It wants me to hear its voice that gave it to me to be heard. So breathe in again and just listen in deep silence. Be very still, open your mind, go past all the raucous shrieks and sick imaginings that cover your real thoughts and obscure your eternal awareness of perfect love. Exhale as you release those, whatever raucous shrieks, that's the ego just going on doing its thing, seemingly making situations, getting upset. Blow that all away, the breeze of your breath. Just letting it all go. It's going, gone. Lower stomach into the spine, expel the last remaining air out. And sink deep into the peace that waits for you beyond the frantic, riotous thoughts and sights and sounds of this insane world. Just let all that go, blow it all away, and rest in this deep, quiet, peaceful state. You reach this state of mind in which you're truly welcome. Trying to reach your real home, which is pure formless awareness of the perfect love. State of perfect. Reach into the depths of your mind, into this deeper state of awareness. Experience it. Remind yourself that perfect love's voice speaks to me right now. It's always there, it's always available. So allow yourself for a few minutes just to have this experience of perfect love's voice speaking to you, guiding you in your own experience. Maybe that is just peaceful, just a very peaceful, calm awareness. There's no thoughts and emotions going on. Nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. So you just breathe, relax, be still. And surrender into that stillness. Dropping into the stillness, the peace, silence, in which God's voice, perfect love's voice, can be heard, recognized, understood, and then acted on if necessary. Give yourself the gift of listening only to this voice for the next couple of minutes of deep, peaceful silence. Any thoughts come up who disturb this deep peace, or unpleasant in any way, shape, or form? Anything contracted, constricting, limiting, restrictive? Just acknowledge it. Breathe into it. Imagine you breathing light. Just pure awareness into the darkness, just limited awareness. Find yourself the perfect love's voice speaks to me throughout the day. So it speaks to me right now. Perfect love's voice is the antidote. Love's voice speaks to me now, so I can just blow it all away. Let go of all this insanity, these frantic, riotous thoughts, as she calls them, frantic and distraught, without reality of any kind. Go past the raucous shrieks and sick imaginings that cover your real thoughts. Secure your eternal link with God. Blow them away like dark clouds. They have no reality, no meaning, no purpose. You can just dismiss them. You let them go. You blow them all away with the breeze of your breath. And nothingness it really is. And sink inwards to the peace. Give yourself another minute or two just to experience this very deeply, fully and completely. There's nothing else to do, nowhere else to go. Just experience the perfect love that is there in your mind, in your awareness right now. So just gently come back now to an awareness of your body and the breath, senses, and the world. And on the count of three, you're going to open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in. And you notice how the stomach rises and the chest rises and the subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. And you pause at the top of the inhale. Observing the breath. Smile. In your mind, you'll notice any thoughts, emotions, related body sensations, be particularly vision for any ego thoughts, or the raucous shrieks, sick imaginings. Cover your real thoughts, obscure your eternal link with God, any of those, just be willing to let them go. Breathe into them, listen to your breathings, pure formless awareness. Visualize it as light that works. You visualize well. Breathe it in and let the light just transmute the darkness. And blow it out and let it go. Blowing all that darkness away like a black smoke, leaving your body, your mouth, your body, your energy system. It's going, gone. Lower stomach into the spine, expel the last remaining air out. And then count to 2, just notice the weight of your body pressing down into the chair and your feet touching the ground, and noticing what you're feeling. Your hands and touching. And there's a subtle flow of air on your skin. Breathe in. As you breathe that air in, notice any smell in your nose, maybe the subtle taste in your mouth. And there's that. Breathing in again. And just noticing all these things, just very still, calm, and surrendered state of mind. State of mind without illusions, in which only the truth is true. And so you anchor the state in, very calm, very peaceful. Notice how it feels. This is your natural state, and this is what you're going to stay and carry with you into bed and on into your week ahead. So it is said, and so it is done. Now on the count of 3, just open your eyes. So take a moment just to look around the room in this very calm, still, connected way. Noticing whatever objects happen to be in front of you. Notice the underlying peace, stillness that you experienced, hopefully quite last twice with your eyes closed there. Now your eyes are open. Look at another object, notice the same peace and stillness, and close your eyes briefly. Notice it there when your eyes are closed, then open your eyes again, look at something else. Notice that it's really the same state. Nothing's changed just because your eyes are open and closed. Your fundamental awareness has not changed one bit. That's the purpose of these exercises at the end, is to show you that nothing's really changed. Your awareness is the same with your eyes are open and closed. It's the same peaceful, loving awareness, which is your true awareness, your source, yourself. So that brings us to the end of the meditation. I wish you very peaceful evening and week ahead in that awareness. Stay in that awareness no matter what, and just use the lesson for the day to help you to do that. Okay, so namaste, Kim. Thank you for joining. Good session, and I'll see you when I see you, I guess. Join us next week Sunday if you want, or in the week. I'm going to be doing some evening sessions, so join us if you can.
Thanks, Jono. Namaste.
All right. Very well.
Namaste.
Thanks for joining.
You too. Thank you. Thanks.
Have a
Good
good
night.
week.
You
Night.
too. Thanks. Bye.
Namaste. All right, so that's a wrap for tonight. Thank you to Kim for joining and making the session possible. And if you liked the content, then you can do a number of things to take another step in this direction. So you can join us online for one of these sessions. Masterclass, they call it. So go to theaolg.com to find out how you do that. Sign up for free for one of these classes. And you can also get some of the material I shared up front, the daily quote and mind training lesson from A Course in Miracles in visual form, as well as some commentary on those and a short meditation or breath break, as I call it, to help you to practice the lesson. So go to lifebuild.com. You can see that URL over here. So lifebuild.com to subscribe. The URL is also below in the text box if you're viewing this video on YouTube. And then finally, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel and you enjoy this content, you'd like to be notified whenever I go live, which is typically 6 days a week, then join us for one of the live sessions. Join us on the live stream or catch the recordings once I finish the live stream by subscribing to the channel. So just hit the subscribe button, you'll be notified whenever I go live by YouTube. So I hope you'll do one or more of those things to take the next step in this hero's journey of awakening. I hope to meet you in person on the inside soon. Thanks again for watching, listening, and namaste, which means the true peaceful self in me acknowledges and honors that same connected peaceful self in you.